It's really gonna be up here, though.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna do this.
What is that piece for?
That's for the collection center, South River.
Oh, yeah.
Like 36 acres, I think.
They're gonna lease that to a couple of deer hunters.
I'll sell it. I'm not gonna use it.
All right, we're just a few minutes until we'll be ready to go.
To respond to email, I like your definition.
All right, looks like we're at the 7 o'clock hour if you're ready to
There you go.
That's hard.
All right, let's call the March 11th, 2026 meeting of the Rockbridge County Planning Commission to order. Roll call, Commission Member Sabrizi.
Here.
Commission Member Kramer.
Here.
Commission Member Sandridge.
Here.
Commission Member Whitmore.
Here.
Commission Member Beebe is here as well. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar, the link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. At this time, we will proceed with the meeting. This is the citizens' comments portion of the meeting. Is there anyone physically present to speak?
There's no one signed up to speak.
Okay. So I guess we'll keep going. Is there anybody via the Zoom or phone to participate?
No one with a hand raised.
Okay. Do I have a motion or any questions, comments, or additions to the minutes? Could we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as is.
We have a motion to approve the minutes,
Second.
and it is seconded, so the minutes are approved. Board reports, Neil,
We
need
need
to
a
vote.
final vote on the
Gotta
minutes.
vote.
excuse me.
A final vote on the minutes.
Oh, a final vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It's unanimous. Sorry about that. Neil, would you like to do the
Yes.
board reports?
At the February 23rd Board of Supervisors meeting, the board approved the zoning text amendment to modify the land development regulations with the addition of the solar ordinance. In addition, the board approved the zoning text amendment to modify the regulations pertaining to equitable ownership and real parties in interest. At the March 9th Board of Supervisors meeting, the board approved the Marlbrook Baptist Church application for an accessory structure in the floodway as recommended by the Planning Commission. The BZA met on February the 18th to hear an appeal submitted by the Warm Run Citizens Association, LLC, and the Rockbridge Taxpayers Alliance, Incorporated, of the zoning administrator's decision pertaining to Warm Run Solar, LLC. The Rockbridge County Board of Zoning Appeals dismissed the appeal of Warm Run Citizens Association, LLC, and Rockbridge Taxpayers Alliance, Incorporated, for lack of standing, as neither applicant aggrieved is a person as defined by Code of Virginia 15.2-2311A. The TCO board met on March the 4th to review the site plan for the proposed Sheetz convenience store and gas station at the corner of North Lee Highway and Murray River Road. The TCO recommended approval of the site plan. The Community Development Committee met on February the 17th. Topics of discussion included recent and pending board actions, including the proposed multifamily development on Northwind Lane. Next meeting of the Community Development Committee is scheduled for Monday, March the 16th at 12:15 p.m.
Thank you, Neil. Item number 5 on our list is a public hearing, the County of Rockbridge public hearing, application for a zoning text amendment, ZTA, to modify section 1300 site plan requirements, section 1300.02 administration of this article of the County of Rockbridge land development regulations to update the review process of site plans.
Yes, and this originates during the 2025 session of Virginia General Assembly. They enacted Chapter 594 and Senate Bill 974, which amended several provisions of the Code of Virginia relating to subdivision ordinances and plan review. The legislation requires each locality to designate an agent to review and act on subdivision plats, site plans, and plans of development. Importantly, Chapter 594 provides that in localities with a population greater than 5,000, the local planning commission may not serve as a designated agent. Instead, the governing body must appoint an agent or employee of the locality to serve in this role. To comply with this new statutory requirement, at their August 2025 meeting, the Board of Supervisors designated Chris Sladen, Director of Community Development and Zoning Administrator, as Rockbridge County's designated agent, and Neil Whitmore, Deputy Zoning Administrator, as the alternate designated agent to serve in the event of the absence or unavailability of the designated agent. With the appointment of a designated agent and alternate, the land development regulations require updating to reflect these changes. Section 1300. Site plan requirements, 1300.02, administration of this article pertains to the review process for major and minor site plans set in place by the Board of Supervisors. At their February 11, 2026 meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed the draft language of the zoning text amendment. The commissioners agreed that the amendment to the land development regulations in order to comply with state law was necessary and instructed staff to take the matter to public hearing at the next meeting today, March 11, 2026. Since the previous Planning Commission meeting, staff has made modifications to the draft of the proposed zoning text amendment, clarify the language and lessen ambiguity. As seen in the draft amendment, the modifications, which will be shown in red, were reviewed by the Planning Commission at the last meeting on February the 11th, and the changes shown in green were made after that meeting. Current language of section 1300 is as follows, and that is in your packet. So the action tonight and the public hearing will be to consider this new information, receive public comment, and then if there's a consensus, make a recommendation.
Is that it, Neil?
Yes.
Okay, before we open the public hearing, any comments about this, gentlemen?
What do you think? I have a bunch of questions. I went to the Law and Order television program, law school, but a lot of these things are legal questions, I think. So in looking at that chapter 594, the changes that are made, I think it goes a lot farther than just taking the Planning Commission out of it. I think you're taking the Board of Supervisors out of it as well, and I think you might be taking the TCO out of it as well.
Well, I think the specific language was to remove the Planning Commission and replace the Planning Commission's role with that of a designated agent.
That is, this most specific thing is in there, but it talks about approval, the designated agent being the approver.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
And like with site plans for, not site plans, the plats, I mean, specifically, those things go to the approval of the board as well.
If I could chime in, the Board of Supervisors does not do site plan approval. Y'all had full-blown site plan approval. And the TCO has full-blown site plan approval, and that stays consistent with the draft that's in front of y'all.
Wait, say that again, Chris.
The TCO has full-blown site plan approval as well, and that stays consistent with the draft that you have in front of you.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying is that we're only addressing in this, and I mean, last time I thought let's just make the changes that have to do with the Planning Commission, but the TCO, if it has an approval, then that's above and beyond the designated agent's approval.
Yeah, and they did,
That's
and
correct.
the law did not change that. So
That's
the law did not address the TCOs on overlay districts approval requirement, because that's a separate thing. The TCO only has the authority to do that in the overlay district where they have authority. They can't do that anywhere else. So the TCO's review is limited, and it's limited to the things that they're allowed to review and for the issues for which they're allowed to review. It's not the same type of review that for example, the designated agent, Chris, at this time would.
But I'm saying the wording that I'm looking at and what's got me confused is legislation requires each locality to designate an agent to review and act on subdivision plats, site plans, and plans of development.
Yes, and if you notice, you have to go and look to where it actually changed the law. And it changed the law in 15.220, the 22nd chapter. And it actually showed the changes were actually in those specific chapters, which were referring to the planning commission's role. It didn't have any change to a place where something like the TCO would actually have a role.
Okay.
So this only changed it in that.
And I understand the limited role the TCO has, but it does say in our regulation that or at least it was in wording here that the TCO approves. It doesn't sound like approves.
It says, and realize that because as we said that the change in the rule under 15.22200 chapter is a reference to site approval planning approvals by the planning commission is what it previously was. And that language was taken out and they put in the designated agent. They didn't do anything about a TCO's role that was played there. It was only those sections.
And what about
so you can actually, if you look actually through there, if you go to online and look up that Senate bill, is it 594, I believe.
Yes.
And then that'll open up a link in LIS.
I've looked at it. So.
Yeah, and you click on there, you can actually click where it'll highlight where all the changes are. And you scroll down there, you see none of them actually have any reference to TCO. They're all referring to the.
Well, the TCO is that something that every jurisdiction has?
Well, it's
not necessarily. Not every jurisdiction has a TCO. And of course,
we're authorized to have them and we actually
are.
One, and the TCO's authority is limited to within the overlay districts where they have the ability to make a review, and they have a broader authority beyond just site plans. So this is so I think my opinion, my legal opinion on this is that we are completely in compliance and that we could not make any restrictions on the TCO based on the changes that were in the state law.
Okay, what about the Board of Supervisors?
Well, as Chris mentioned, the Board of Supervisors hasn't ever played a role in site approval. So
what's written in the next thing that it goes to the site plan or
we have to bring this to the board for approval because it's a change in our ordinance and the board has to approve any change to ordinances, but not it has nothing to do with the previous procedure. To my understanding was that the planning commission would actually receive the plats and actually have the ability to accept or reject them. And that did not go on to the Board of Supervisors, unlike many of your other activities, which would go on to the Board of Supervisors.
Site plans don't go to the Board of Supervisors if they are a by right use in that district.
Yeah.
I think
but you have
something different.
But the Planning Commission had the role to review them as it was brought forward. Now that all's been going as the changes in the law has turned that from a public body issue to an administrative decision by the designated agent and has given the designated agent the authority for approval. But it did not do anything to change what our current law is, nor does it require us to change the current law with the TCO's role, for example.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's what I mean.
That's a special animal, but I'm just saying this, and somewhere I'll find it before we get it, but it says in here that a site plan will then go to the Board of Supervisor for approval.
Okay, you mean in chapter 594? Chapter 594? If it's in there, please let us know because it's my understanding is that's not correct.
Okay, because I mean,
I don't believe that they have the Board of Supervisors has the authority to do so.
Well, potentially a subdivision plat will go to the Board of Supervisors for final review, but
okay, that's what I'm
not a site plan.
But subdivision plats is included in the language in the change in the law.
Yes, it does. And I fortunately can't answer the question on that portion there. I do know that when we drafted through this and did this, that we did it in compliance with what the law required. And so I didn't go back to that particular issue because it's Board of Supervisors review on this is in our, and then a plat approved or disapproved. I assume that's by the Board of Supervisors.
That's.
I would-
mean,
and
And,
what-
the, and
what
the
they-
law
too.
did not change. I'm looking at it now, but the law did not. What the law recently did is define made modifications to the designated agent. And so, with that being said, it would not prohibit the board of supervisors from looking at that. But also,
Well,
I
it
serve as
doesn't-
the subdivision agent as well, and so there's well, we have a discussion later on a preliminary plat of a subdivision, but there's a lot of subdivisions, lot subdivisions, large lot subdivisions. There's a lot of different subdivisions, family subdivisions that never go to the planning commission nor board of supervisors.
And I think the main thing on this is what Chris just mentioned. It's if you go through actually 594 and actually follow the track all the changes, in no place does it replace the board of supervisors role, if any, that they have with the designated agent, but it's very particular to remove planning commission.
Agree 100% with the fact about planning commission. I'm just saying that to me, based on that language that I just read, it seems to be affect any approval,
No, well, no, it doesn't.
any
because-
act. It
No,
says.
no, well, it actually, because if you read through the chapters and what the chapters are applying to, I don't believe that that's what it applies to. And matter of fact, and that would be consistent with how all other governments in the Commonwealth that I'm aware of have been applying
I'm
this.
just, I'm concerned we're not, by not going into 909, which 0.01, which is the subdivision thing that we may be missing some.
Well, and that's a valid point. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to answer that question today, but I'll be able to answer it.
I mean, what kind
Later
of
on.
things would be an act? If that's a language, it says an act to review, the designated act is to review and act. I mean, again, we don't need to go into that. The other comment I want to make is I'm surprised he's not here. Bill Russell had sent it some things in relation to this.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he sent that. I guess perhaps he read about it and maybe he felt it has something to do with.
I mean, I
think
thought
the
there were
implications.
some points there. Well, I mean, I like to ask staff in terms of, I mean, what kind of determining what's a major or minor, what kind of requirements do you use now? And what are the requirements, or what is your checklist for things when you review one?
That's spelled out in
One
the
of them.
existing land development regulations as far as what requires a major, what requires a minor.
And that's really not.
Okay,
That's
then,
really not that has not been challenged. I realize that there's to speak frankly, that certain citizens have particular things that they're concerned about, particular projects they're concerned about, and it's in my view that some of the issues as to changing this, we're always open to receiving public comments and things of that nature, but this is not normally something that would originate from the public because the public doesn't have the ability to do so. We're happy to receive the comments, but they also weren't with an understanding that we've already been in the process of actually doing this, and it's been going on for a while to change this to bring in compliance with what the law requires under 594. And so that's I'm trying to be judicious in my language. But my view on this is I do believe as we've gone, because we've been over this, as county staff, we've been working on this now for about 6 months. And that we've read through the statutes quite clearly. I believe that the language we have here is correct. If there are other sections like in chapter 9 that you refer to, or other chapters that have to be updated, we'll be able to do so in the future. We believe that this is meeting what we're required to do under the changes in the law from last year, but we're always open to if we make mistakes to make
okay,
sure we get done.
to me, he had some points in terms of specifics on how to determine things that maybe
Yeah, but
aren't
that's-
there now.
Yeah,
And plus also transparency, because
well, but no, but I mean, you can probably hear a little bit of frustration in my voice. I think we're an exceptionally transparent process. We go through everything very well, and it's a little frustrating, I'll be frank, when people come and accuse us of not being transparent. No, I'm not saying you are,
no,
but I'm saying, but
I'm not saying he is either, though.
well, he has, let's be frank, he has. And we've had some discussions about that. And that's probably where you hear a little frustration in the voice, because the county, we've been accused recently, and this is me speaking not to protect myself, because it's not myself, but others. I'm not speaking judiciously right now, but I do not feel that some people are being very fair in the way they're treating our employees. We have some very talented people that work very hard for not a particularly large wage that could make a lot more money if they went to work in our larger localities that work very hard on getting this stuff done. And it's not you. I'm not saying this at all with Commissioner Spreezy. I think you're very helpful on this. But to have some of these things come up saying that we're doing things wrong, we're doing things illegal, we're favoring one side over the other, or that we just don't know what we're doing, or we're not being open. We comply with FOIA like you can't believe. We spend a huge amount of time doing that. And we spend a huge amount of time trying to keep as transparent what we have. And people can come anytime they want to get this stuff and respond to them. And so it's a little frustrating to get some of these things from people who I know better because I've had discussions with them on these very issues. And so not to close down any discussion, but I think you might hear a little frustration in my voice because I think it's a significant waste of county's time and staff's time when we're way understaffed anyway. And we have so many other things that we're trying to get done that are very important to actually have to deal with things and being accused of not being transparent, being accused of not knowing our jobs when we know them better than the people that are accusing us of that. We really do. And we take our job very, very seriously. And if we make mistakes, I'm the first to line up and say, I'm wrong. But what I've noticed is some of these people, when they're making mistakes, they refuse to admit they're making mistakes and they're completely wrong. And I'm sorry, I'm going way beyond what I should be going on, but I hope you can understand why that's frustrating and why it's frustrating to have this.
I sense the frustration very strongly. I'm
but
just saying, but what I read, there seems to be some validity there, not necessarily to the details, but to the.
It's ChatGPT that brought that out. And if you do, then ChatGPT is very helpful. And frankly, I like to use it. I do use it. I think it's very helpful, but it's only helpful if you actually understand when it's giving you stuff that's not quite right. And that's why it's extremely helpful if you have some back understanding with what's going on. And then you can go, I had to draft an agreement today over the past 3 days. And I used both ChatGPT and Claude to help me draft it. And when I got the information, I realized there was areas they were wrong in. And if you didn't have that background, you would have thought it was right. And that's the type of stuff that we receive. I appreciate people, and I always encourage citizens, and I've always been extremely encouraging for them to send things in, and anything they send in, we receive and we look at. But I do think if we put the amount of money for my time, it's cost the county tens of thousands of dollars just in my time for some of the things that we've had to do, not counting the outside counsel we've had to hire and other things. So, and that's the whole thing. Like with this too, I think that we've taken our job very seriously, and what we presented to you today is the product of a lot of work, and we have no concerns about it, and we're in your job, which we 100% acknowledge, is to ask all these questions. So it's not. I'm not. This has nothing to do with what you're saying now or things like, because I appreciate all those. Matter of fact, as I've told you personally many times, I do appreciate that and appreciate that. But I am a little concerned about some of the issues that are being raised by. No, I've got to take that back, because the public has the right to say anything, and I gladly receive whatever they send here. But I do believe that it's probably prudent to realize that sometimes the stuff that's sent in isn't as useful as other things get sent in. I think that's probably the best way to say it. And so as far as this goes, I think that we do, I think we've covered the things that need to be covered by the statute. And my same point is that if we did miss something, my preference would be that we move ahead with what this is and we come back. But I agree with you on what you've always raised, is that it's good to be efficient and bring all things together at one time, and as opposed to having to bring it back a second time, because if we miss something, we'll have to bring it back a second time, which takes up time. That's too.
What I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah, and actually, I'm completely on your side with that. But there will be times when we miss things. I don't think we did here, but we definitely will look at that to make sure.
Well, I think the main gist of that change in the regulation was to streamline things for people that are coming into it, and we're still look like we're going to be using the maximum amount of time that's afforded us by law to do that, with adding the review in here as well.
That's a valid point, because we did allow the changes here, make it clear that the designated agent has the ability to bring issues to the Plan Commission for comments, not for official review, but for comments. And I think part of the reason why we do that is and why we want to continue that is the transparency question. Because while we don't have to do that by bringing it to in a public meeting, then we are being as transparent as possible is our view on that.
Well, I mean, I didn't really want to necessarily go down the transparency thing because
Yeah.
to me, I would agree with your statement in terms of what I know about so far about that. But can we improve transparency? You talk about FOIA. I mean, that takes your time to
And we're
research
by
that
law
stuff.
have to do that, so I can't. I
Right,
don't mean
what
to
I'm saying
complain on
is,
that.
is there some other ways that we can do that maybe keeps people from coming to you and asking for a document that could otherwise be published to be seen?
But as we think, and that's a good point. If you have suggestions on that, we're really
I mean,
open to.
I'll talk to you about that, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying
we're very open with
I,
that.
I was just curious, and you've answered for the staff as far as I'm concerned. The merits of what was presented there. It seemed to me that.
And realize that, a lot of these things are brought up in, we do have a community development committee that's of the board of supervisors, and that's always open to the public, and they're always advertised prior to that. So there are, we do try to be as transparent about all things as possible. And if there are areas where we can do better, we're always open to doing things in a way that people understand better. And I do apologize that I express some personal opinions right now. Those.
No need.
Okay. So
I'm gonna,
I'm sorry. I will note that there is one person with their hand raised, but that will be for the public hearing. We won't be able to. take
okay,
that.
that's good. Okay.
just a couple comments I have from a staff side in that when this legislation was moved forward, and we as staff spoke with some individuals that have a long history of watching these things move through the legislature in a number of localities. That streamlining issue was a big part of it because there are many localities that are much larger than Rockbridge County and that have long backlogs with their development process. And so some of this legislation was advocated, if you will, to just move things forward in a quicker manner because there were some that were so backlogged. We don't have that problem here because of our size, even though we may be understaffed, just the amount of projects we have. But there are some localities where the wait time and the review time is extensive. And that was a real driver for some of this legislation from what we heard from individuals that have worked with this for decades.
But understand, and I just want to be compliant with the law, and I'm just concerned that to me, I have no opinion one way or the other, faster or slower, but the law is.
And I'll now go back and review this. We did review it before, but honestly, I'm not able to answer some of your questions. So I apologize for that, and we'll review to make sure that we are.
Because when you look at the threshold, when you look at the population threshold here that they specified in those bills of 5,000 or less for a locality, you can think of localities that meet that requirement. Certainly Rockbridge County is far above that, but there are many that are far above Rockbridge County. So it spans that population density quotient in an extreme way, but it covers everybody. So we're moving to be compliant with that.
All right. Any other discussion? I, for one, would like to say how valuable our staff is and how much we appreciate them and how transparent you all are. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I second that.
Okay. Any more discussion, gentlemen?
No.
All right. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody physically present to speak? There is not,
Not anyone signed up.
but we have a remote participant, Vivica.
Hello.
Hello,
We can hear you, Mr.
Bill. How are you?
I'm fine. I've been listening to this discussion with quite a bit of interest. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly at this evening. I want to start by saying that I recognize the county must comply with statutory changes enacted by the General Assembly in Chapter 594. The requirement that a designated administrative agent approve or disapprove site plans is now part of Virginia law, and Rockingham County obviously needs to implement that. I offer the materials I submitted simply as a suggestion that may strengthen the county's approach, not as a criticism of the draft that has been presented. My interest this evening is to encourage the county to preserve public visibility and the Planning Commission's advisory role when it comes to major development proposals. Site plans are often where the real details of projects appear. Access, grading, drainage, buffers, infrastructure, and the overall footprint of the development. For large projects, those details matter a great deal to the surrounding community. Historically, in Rockbridge County, site plans have also been closely associated with special exception permit applications, which come before the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in public meetings. That process allows questions to be asked and helps the public understand how projects will actually be implemented. The materials I submitted simply suggest that the county consider preserving that transparency by ensuring that major site plans remain visible within the public process, particularly when they're associated with the special exception permits. This is very relevant for a variety and range of projects, large subdivisions, infrastructure projects, waste facilities, and of course, utility scale solar developments. In my experience, the Planning Commission plays an especially valuable role in that process. Commissioners often ask detailed questions that explore the practical applications of projects in ways that benefit both the public and the Board of Supervisors. So my only purpose tonight is to encourage the commission to think about how Rockbridge County comply with the statute while still maintaining the Planning Commission's meaningful role and preserving transparency for the public. Thank you for your time. And I would like to say that I really had no other underlying reason for submitting what I did. And I'm not aware, and if I have been, that I have been ever critical of staff in a meeting. I heard that comment the other night in the supervisors meeting also. And if I have, I apologize, but frankly, I don't believe I have. And I don't think people are above criticism based on their position, but I think they're above, they certainly shouldn't be abused because of their position. So that's my comment with regard to this. I firmly believe that site plans for major development projects need to be exposed to the public for review. I think the Planning Commission serving it as an advisory role is permissible under the statute. That's my reading of it. And I talked to Chris about this the other night, and I think he's the logical, or whoever's in the zoning position, whichever one they do, the logical people to handle the submission of final site plans, certainly, but public comment should come through the Planning Commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, and John referenced that earlier, that the reason we still look at those site plans is so that there is a transparency and the public gets to weigh in at that point, I think. And we can make recommendations to staff. So yeah, thank you, Bill. But
Well, and I was going to say too, one of the thresholds between a minor and a major site plan is change to public infrastructure.
I'm sorry.
We're still in the public hearing, so probably best to end that before discussion.
Okay. Okay.
If there's more people to speak.
Okay. Is there anyone else physically present? There's nobody physically. We've taken care of Zoom. Anybody else on Zoom, Vivica?
I see no other hands raised.
Okay. So are there any objections to closing the public hearing on this? Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Any further discussion here? I guess this discussion with Neil would take place right now. Yeah, okay. Did you finish your thought before Neil, or do you want?
Well, I was just saying one of the thresholds between a major and a minor site plan is changes to public infrastructure, such as water, sewer, roads with VDOT. Those are the things that move over the threshold to a major site plan. So all that is put into the thought process, if you will, when a plan moves forward.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Neil.
What criteria would you use for denying? And, you know, now the designated agent has that responsibility.
Well, denying at what level? A site plan?
Yes, or plat or whatever.
Well, when you
I
talk
can-
about go ahead.
You have to remember also that this is a regulatory process, unlike special exceptions, which are legislative, obviously in nature, and subdivisions are the same way. There's a process that subdivisions have to go through, but it's a regulatory process. So just like a subdivision, a by right use of the use, permitted use, by right use of the land, unless it doesn't meet the criteria, you essentially have to approve it. I will add, it's not uncommon for prior to this state law change in July of last year. It's not uncommon for some localities. The staff is the site plan review, and it doesn't go to the planning commission at all.
So I think we're doing the right thing by the public by setting it up the way we've set it up. So
But my question has to do with, as a designated agent, what kinds of criteria, some examples that you would specifically use if you were, say, to deny or approve? Most of them are approved, you said, then.
A setback violation, something that's in violation of the ordinance itself.
Okay, so you have no little guidebook or something other than the regulation to.
Absolutely, that is correct.
any further discussion? Would any commission member like to make a motion?
And I probably missed it. Did you close the public hearing, Chairman?
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Make the motion. I'm not sure exactly what I'm
You want me to?
moving on. Go ahead, Al.
I make a motion to approve the zoning text amendment commentary to modify section 13, which is site plan requirements in section 1300.02 administration of this article of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations to update the review process of site plans. I made that up.
I second that.
We have a motion on the floor by Adam Sandridge and a second by David Whitmore. Let's do a roll call. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. No nays. The motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is David Aarons. I pronounced that right?
Yes, David Aarons.
Aaron's
Um,
preliminary subdivision plat review, intersection of Wesley Chapel Road, 699 and Poplar Hill Road, Route 801. And do we have staff presentation first?
Yes, David Aarons, 1068 Country Club Road, Lynchburg, Virginia, has submitted an application for a 15-lot standard subdivision with a residual parcel in the residential general R1 zoning district. The minimum lot size in the R1 zoning district with a drain field is 1 acre. The property is located on the west side of Wesley Chapel Road, Route 699, and the north side of Poplar Hill Road, Route 801, at the intersection of Wesley Chapel Road and Poplar Hill Road. The parent parcel is identified as tax map number 75-A-99. The property is owned by David Aarons and consists of 60.238 acres. Proposed lots range from 1 acre to 2.117 acres and consist of 16.68 acres of the total parcel. The residue of the parcel consists of 43.558 acres. All proposed lots have frontage along existing public roads. There are no roads proposed to be added associated with the subdivision. The property is located in the Buffalo Creek Magisterial District.
Is there a representative?
Mr. Aarons was going to be present either physically or on Zoom. I
We do not see him.
don't see that he has his hand raised at the time. I know he was concerned about his travel time coming from another meeting, but we had planned on him being here. And the current action is to review the preliminary plat and just offer feedback. And then the final plat will be placed within 90 days on the Board of Supervisors agenda.
Okay. So since we're not making a vote or a recommendation, we can discuss it and then talk to staff with.
And so as part of the process, staff is in communication with the Virginia Department of Health from that standpoint, and with VDOT, although there are no internal roads with this subdivision, everything is accessed on the public roadway.
Is each lot pre-perked? Excuse me, Tony.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do we know? Are the lots perked for septic?
At this time, I don't know whether they are. That is a communication we'll have with the health department engineer,
Okay.
Ms. Familiar, and we're in communication with them at this time.
And if I may chime in, they are all proposed to be engineered drain fields. We did get that information from the soil scientist. So a soil scientist has been out on site, and all lots are proposed again to be engineered drain fields.
Okay. I was going to ask Mr. Aaron's about, are we allowed to ask the price range that he's shooting for? Has he discussed it, anybody?
I think that would be permissible. I don't see him online at this time.
Okay.
He is
He's
not
here.
online.
Okay.
Can I ask about the drain field though? I mean, if the official approval came back, I mean, would you have that before you approved the subdivision plat?
I'm uncertain on that. I'd have to review the ordinance. I mean, I know in the past and we have not had a standard subdivision in quite some time. Thoroughbred Circle was the last one that was on drain. I'm sorry, that was on well and septic, of course, public water, public sewer, I should say. With that being said, we sort of looked through some older subdivisions. Back in 2004, 2005, we had a fair amount of subdivisions, and there was one that I recalled was approved contingent upon health department approval. You would have to have some due diligence there, if you will, but in order to obtain a building permit, you have to have a what's called a construction permit from the health department.
Yeah.
So
he shouldn't be able to even sell the lots if it doesn't perk. But well, of course, it doesn't matter if it's perked, if it's engineered. That'd be interesting because engineered systems are so expensive that for a small lot, this isn't our purview, I don't think, but for a small lot, you add on $30,000 per lot, or 30 or 40 or whatever they call the cost now. Anyway, I'm just curious that's how he's proceeding. Yeah. But
and this is not a public hearing whatsoever, but I think I see some familiar faces along Poplar Hill, and so if it's the will of the commission, we certainly can have obviously not a public hearing, but we can have public comment.
I would love to have the public weigh in. Yeah. So and that fits the rules, John? We're allowed to.
At this stage, you can ask for them to speak. Sure.
Yeah. Anybody would like to speak? That'd be great if people speak up. Yeah. Come on up.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you have 3 minutes. That's the rules.
The mic just allows us to record what you say, and so we put it in the record.
Hey,
Yes,
Josh
thank you.
West. I'm a resident of Wesley Chapel. So we were talking about how to get the water, how to get the wastewater out of the houses, but I'm kind of concerned about getting the water into the houses too, right? Built wells, right? So I live right across the road. We just built a house a few years ago, and we have some well issues. We're still kind of figuring out whether or not we're actually running out of water or what the well issues might be, but 15 wells across the street could cause some harm. Might be fine, but just what does that study look like, right? That kind of keeps me awake at night about the subdivision and the wetland, like just a pond and creek that it goes into Gordon's Run right there. Just to consider that, I guess, during the
Well,
study.
the whole karst topography, we don't know the effect of those wells.
Yeah.
So is there anybody who could, can we task staff to have I don't know if they can do a study on karst topography. It's hit or miss.
Pockets here and little pockets there.
Deeper to your wells.
My well's 600 feet, and we hit nothing until we hit 600 foot, and then it seems like we hit a fair amount. A lot of sulfur,
pretty clean
and
stuff.
a lot of sulfur in it, but clean.
Yeah.
cell-free. And that's kind of typical of that.
It could be different 15 feet away though. That's
Understood.
that's the
Understood, but-
whole drill and well thing.
So
Neil,
right now we have an open conversation with the engineer from the health department, Kristen Familiar-Liner, on this. And so we will take your comments and then move them on to her area.
it's
in
an
that-
excellent
in that
comment. I
respect.
think
Mhm.
it needs to be addressed. That's
And-
correct. Yeah.
We probably aren't even able to talk about this part. We're talking about the 16 acres, but like the 43 acres in reserve. What's future state of that? Is that in reserve for discussion again for more subdivision addition?
I don't think we're allowed to,
Yeah,
we can't, because that's his decision. Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
We'll have
yeah.
that conversation when it comes, right? So.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very
But then
much.
at that point, he would have to come back, or any landowner would have to come back and initiate a new application. Yes, that would not be a follow-on to this. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else physically present? Come on up.
That's my son. I'll try not to embarrass him. Oh, but y'all were talking on transparency.
Sorry to interrupt. If you wouldn't mind stating your name just for the record.
My name is Vince West, and I live across from where this is going in. We both do. Well, all three of us do. Transparency, y'all were talking a minute ago. Getting a letter the day that they're having the meeting is not transparency. Somebody needs to do better than that. And with that being said, I live on Wesley Chapel Road, which is like an interstate some days. I've lived there all my life. When I was young, we used to ride bicycles. We used to sleigh ride on the road. Now you're doing good to get across the road to check the mail. But other than the traffic, these wells that they're going to put in the ground is definitely going to affect somebody. Maybe me, maybe not. There's one neighbor up the road, he's drilled 2 or 3 wells over the years. And I think the last one, he finally got water on. But if this well drilling affects our wells, who's going to pay for it? The homeowner. Nobody's going to follow through on that.
Yeah, I think this is a common problem with any area that has wells. It's like nobody knows what's down there.
Right, but
Yeah.
what is a standard, call it a standard subdivision?
Staff.
Me,
It's a standard subdivision is creating 3 or more lots.
3 or
The-
more lot?
3 or more lots, yes, sir. And so we have the administrative approval to do large lot subdivisions, just, without the planning commission involvement, a large lot subdivision, which are all lots are greater than 20 acres. We do a whole lot of lot subdivisions, and we could have the administrative approval of 1 lot per calendar year, and that can add up pretty quickly, 1, 2, 4, 8,
Right.
etc. And we have family subdivisions can be administratively approved, but per the ordinance, a standard subdivision, again, 3 or more lots, has a process to go through.
Yeah. But I mean, somebody needs to let people know what's going on, because I heard through the grapevine a few months ago that this was going on. And I actually called you.
Yes, sir.
You
Yeah, I
said-
remember the conversation.
You said, I'll keep you posted. Have not heard anything. Nothing. Until I got a letter in the mail this morning that y'all are having a meeting this evening.
I apologize
That's not-
about that.
That's not acceptable.
The developer, per the ordinance, the developer is required to move that, and it is extremely unusual for a regulatory process to include that requirement. In fact, we used to do a subdivision pending sign on the property, like we're required to do with rezonings. But I've always had an issue with that because I think it does this exact conversation, if you will. It gives the landowners around it a false sense of assurities that it can be denied. With a standard subdivision, if it meets the road frontage and residential zoning district, it's 100 feet. Each one of those districts has each one of the lots has 100 feet or greater, and meets a certain minimum lot size. Again, in the residential zoning district with a drain field, it's a 1 acre lot size. If there was public water out there, it'd be a half acre lot size. It's a by right use of the property. The landowner has the right to develop the property in this form, just like he has the by right use of doing agricultural on the property. Excuse me, not agriculture, but a couple different various uses on the property, not to include agricultural because y'all are in a residential zoning district.
Yeah, did it used to be you had to have 2 acres?
That's currently the case in an agricultural zoning district. That would be the case in A1, A2, and AT.
Okay, so if it's zoned R, it's 1 acre.
1 acre with a drain field, yes, sir. Yep. And this has been zoned residential, as you may know, seeing signs, and I don't know if you were a joiner of them. There has been many down zonings in that area. Some large lots, that type of thing. In fact, I think right behind y'all, or at least behind your son, there was some discussion of there's a large farm behind there, in between y'all and the interstate, if you will. And we had some preliminary discussions of rezoning that property, but the landowner did not want to do it at the time.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's good. But I haven't seen anything. There's gonna be 15 entrances on the 2 roads there. How many is gonna be on Wesley Chapel? How many is gonna be on Poplar Hill?
That the information's available online, but I can tell you right now, I'm pulling up the package. It looks like there are on Poplar Hill, there's 10 lots, and on Wesley Chapel, there's 5 lots.
And each one of them is gonna have to cross the creek.
Potentially, yes. Is that true for both of them, even on Poplar Hill?
The ones on Poplar Hill, some of them, a couple of
Okay.
them.
That's what I was
The
thinking.
ones
Yes,
on
sir.
Wesley Chapel, all of them would have to cross the creek while they build right beside the road.
Yes, we're aware of that. I don't think there's any flood. No, there's floodplain on the property, but it's not associated with that creek. It's associated with the creek to the north.
Okay. The creek runs north and south. There's a pond up there also.
I had a question for you, Mr. West. What's the history of this property? Since you live there all your life, just
It's
curious.
farmland.
Farmland.
And supposedly part of it, before I was born, it used to be owned by W.W. Coffee. Then it was owned by his daughter, and then she recently sold it last year or two, whenever this guy bought it. But supposedly one side of it was exposed rock. And W.W. Coffee, who was a major contractor here, he hauled fill and covered the rocks up so he could plant grass on it, run cattle. But supposedly the whole side across from me, or most of it, is rock probably 3 foot down. So it would be a good place for quarry. Maybe. But I don't know. And is there a restriction on what kind of house can go in there? Is it going to be a trailer park?
In a residential zoning district, you are not allowed to do single wides. We do. There are provisions for double wides in a residential zoning district, but that would be the only prohibition. Single wides would be prohibited, and that's the only influence, if you will, the county would have in that process. The other subdivisions, and this might be one of them, he could very well put restrictive covenants on there saying that no double wides are permitted. He could go in there and say it has to be a 1,500 square foot or 2,500 square foot with stone or brick veneer on the outside. He could. The sky's the limit of what they can do privately in a term called restrictive covenants.
Right. So what's going to happen to the other 40 acres in 5 years from now? They're going to have 20 more lots up there?
I don't think it allows for that. And just a conversation with the developer or the landowner developer, if you will. I think he's planning on building. That was a conversation we had. He was planning on building on the remaining land.
Yeah, that's what I initially heard, but that didn't happen. He might, whatever. But I'm concerned about the traffic and the wells.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it. VDOT weighs in too, right? This is by right thing, so
They will in the entrances, but
it looks like it's
there are
gonna-
no internal roads on this, so it's all
gonna
exiting and entering from a public road.
Is it,
Site
is,
site
is it
distance,
just
that's
site
right.
distance is normally the,
That's the-
And road frontage,
so you
Has to
said
be
minimum's
maintained.
100 or is minimum less than that?
correct. For the R1 district, the minimum is 100.
and the site distance.
What,
So on the site distance question, VDOT can actually, but most of the driveways along Wesley Chapel and Poplar Hill and most of the secondary roads all have what's called an unimproved private entrances. It's my understanding that a private entrance can serve 1 or 2 family dwellings. But once it gets to 3 or more single family dwellings, VDOT has the authority to look at site distance, actually deny the entrance be used for 3 or more. But it's a regulatory process with both of them as a regulatory process. But with that being said, most people on a secondary road will get what is called an unimproved entrance permit. And that, again, not to beat a dead horse, but that can serve 1 or 2 single family dwellings.
was there, I was looking at the administration of subdivision regulations. Was there a preliminary sketch provided or did they skip that?
I would consider this the preliminary sketch. I mean, they actually, the developer and the surveyor sent in a full blown survey from the very beginning. And then we had to sort of, per the ordinance, I should say, we had to slow it down a little bit and go through this process.
I mean, after, I think it was received on March 4th. The preliminary, if it's a preliminary plat, you've only got 30 days in order to decide on it, right?
30 days for it to be, hold on, let me see here. So subdivision is regulatory process per section 607.02-10 of the regulations, County of Rockbridge regulations. Standard subdivisions are required to be reviewed by the Planning Commission per section 907.02-12. The regulations, after receiving notification concerning the preliminary plat, the subdivider shall have no more than 6 months to
No,
file.
this is
Go ahead.
labeled preliminary plat.
Yeah, so they have
figure-
60 days. They have 60 days to submit a final plat.
That's not. At some point, you're going to either avoid approval of the preliminary plat or and that's the 6 months. I'm sorry. It says right now we're in a review and decision on plat administration and or planning commission. That's supposed to be 30 days, within 30 days of that. I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out how this process works. And then, we've talked about VDOT, we talked about, which would be addressing traffic. We talked about the wells. You said the health folks would do that. In order to disapprove this plat, what would you need to have to make that determination? That's what I'm trying to figure.
That it doesn't meet the requirements. That's the same thing we talked about a little bit ago with the site plan approval, and I gave the example of the
How many of
subdivision
these
approval.
so is any of these things requirements that was brought up here in this discussion?
No.
None of them.
No, I mean, water is very unique in the code of Virginia. I'm sorry, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, as far as water rights. John may be a better resource than that. But they will have to have a approved water source and approved drain field prior to getting a building permit. They also are required to have a VDOT entrance permit before you can get a building permit.
So it sounds like the plat is a foregone conclusion. It's going to get approved.
Yes, it is. It really is. And there's just no other way to say that. And that's why I found it frustrating. I find it frustrating as staff that we used to put up subdivision pendings. We mailed the letters out to the adjoiners. I think we mailed 18 letters, however many letters out, because again, as I stated earlier, I think it gives a false sense of assurity that the county can somehow deny this subdivision. It's a by right use of the property.
I mean, on the third line here, it says it's got a block that says plat approved, plat disapproved. This is
but there's realize that if it's a by right use, as long as they're complying with setback rules and some of the other basic things are in there, we can't. So he would disapprove if they came back and the setbacks were wrong, then he could disapprove it. Otherwise, if he were to disapprove it, they could sue us and force us to approve it because we have no basis for disapproval as long as they meet there. So it's anything that's a by right use, just like if a farmer, remember we had to change the confinement agriculture position because our position was wrong. It's illegal. We do not have the right under this law to restrict confinement agriculture in an agriculture zoned area.
So, but
And we don't have right in a residential area to deny
But the-
the plat, as long as they comply with everything.
the
And
concerns we heard today,
we can't do anything about those.
so when do they do something about it? Or
Well, no, but we can't. I mean, it's a by right. It's the same like
They
if
do.
you had on your property at home, if you own a piece of property and you want to build a house on it, as long as you meet the standards, we can't stop you from building a house. And there's issues. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're not concerned about those issues. But the fact is, as a matter of fact, they can't get their building permit if for some reason they don't get the water there and they can't get the proper septic system in place. So there are other things there, but we don't do anything about those. That's not we don't have the authority to do that. That's handled by, not even handled by the county. So those are, and anybody that's involved in construction is aware of those things. But so the way it works here, I mean, and that's, I think, why Chris is expressing concern is that we do these, we bring it out to the public, but we don't have the authority to deny it as long as they're meeting the standards. If it's a by right use, if it's requires a special exception, we clearly don't have to grant that special exception.
You can talk to the guy and
We-
say,
from-
Yes, yeah, we have
you can
influence.
have, you can have conversations, say, but by and large, the county would like you to be a little more creative. And have you considered this and this? David, you were thinking
Yeah, I
of
mean,
saying something.
I'm going to follow our instructions, what we're supposed to be doing, which is provide feedback on the preliminary plat. So
Yeah.
without being really overly familiar with the property, knowing that it's drain fields and wells. I mean, when you look at it on paper, it looks like an area that's planned for where public water and sewer is located. I mean, that's just my initial opinion. I mean, the lot size is small. You're on a county road, probably a 55-mile-per-hour road versus a 25-mile-per-hour subdivision road, possibly. A lot of entrances, small lot sizes. So, I mean, my concerns would be the amount of wells and how it would affect the neighbors and drain fields. And I would recommend fewer lots. I don't know what the owner developer's end goal is. Probably maximize profit, I would guess, possibly. But if not, I think in fitting with the other lot sizes across the street, smaller lot sizes, and just taking into consideration trying to get some approvals first, making sure you can perk or engineer all the drain fields, and maybe even doing a test well, water well. So that's all I have on that.
Any
And
other-
those are things that we can share with the developers. That I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem well thought out, and I encourage him to work a little harder. But anyway, any other comment?
I mean, that's everything that I had. I mean, I agree with Josh. And living out in Brownsburg, even though I'm in Fairfield and hooked up public water now. I mean, I had the same issues with my aunt, and based on the elevation and land. So, I mean, I guess the only other thing is, I mean, the amount of cars you're gonna throw on the road. But if it's meeting VDOT, it's the same thing as my back road. It's 55 miles an hour. You never know, you go hit a turkey truck or a cattle truck.
Okay.
And so what we will do as staff is then reach back out and continue the conversation with the landowner, the
All you can
developer
do.
in this case, and say the planning commission has done its due diligence and looked at it from a land development standpoint. And then we're expecting the health department to look at it from their standpoint and VDOT. And I think the comments that we heard here were traffic and water, groundwater from a big standpoint. And so we will have those conversations with the appropriate agencies on that side. But
Is the blue area down here by the creek, the floodplain on that one that has the yellow mashed out with art residential one? Right before. Okay.
correct.
Well, yeah, that's what they're restricted. He can't even, based on whatever it's designated. Chris might know exactly what the floodplain runs on it. They can't build on that part anyways.
No, the
Or-
floodplain,
or-
the floodplain is to the north of the property on the very top where it says Zone X and Zone A.
I see Zone A. And no, I was just trying to address concern. What are they going to do with the rest of the land? So
Sure.
you take that and cut it in half, you get a more ideal phase of how much land is actually available.
Sure, and then the grade in area, of course, is steep slopes. And when I say steep slopes, it's 25% or greater. It's also worth noting this is the Poplar Hill. This hill associated with this property is the namesake of Poplar Hill Road. Just thought I had to add that in there. I found that interesting when this first came up.
And then from a flood standpoint,
Yeah, I'm just taking limitations on future.
that would come in with
future
the building
tax into
department.
plate, because if he wants to build on it, you've already sectioned off those lot sizes. When you look at all the zone plan, the planning on the actual plat versus the zone, if he wants to build, he ain't gonna do too many more lots.
On the residual
In the
parcel.
future, yeah, on the
Yes,
residual.
correct.
All right. Any other recommendations to staff? Thank you all. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Next item on the agenda is site plan review, County of Rockbridge South River Collection Facility on Old Buena Vista Road. Neil? Yes, Neil.
So the County of Rockbridge has submitted the following plans to develop a staff collection center on the east side of Old Buena Vista Road, Route 631, approximately 0.38 miles southeast of the intersection of Old Buena Vista Road and South River Road, Route 608. The property is owned by Rockbridge County and is located in the general industrial zoning district per section 607.02-22 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations. Public service or public storage buildings are permitted use in the I-1 zoning district. Property is identified as tax map number 77-4-5C and consists of 24.971 acres per tax records. Under the current solid waste plan, the proposed South River Collection Center will replace 4 existing unstaffed collection centers. This includes the 2 existing unstaffed collection centers located along South River Road, the unstaffed center on the west side of North Lee Highway near the intersection of North Lee Highway and Timber Ridge Road, and the unstaffed center on South River on the south side of Old Buena Vista Road near the intersection of Old Buena Vista and Mountain View. These unstaffed collection centers will be will be removed after the completion of the South River Collection Center. The Rockbridge County staff collection centers are open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday from 1 to 6 p.m. And with us, we have the director of the center, David Muir, for any further questions and information.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Commissioner, or Chairman, excuse me, members of the Planning Commission. Mr. Whitmore did a good job of kind of giving us an overview of the project. As he did mention, this center would replace 4 of the green box sites that we currently have. We only have 8 remaining throughout the county, so this would cut out half of those and replace it with the staff collection center. Be glad to answer any questions you guys would have this evening.
I think Mr. Orson did a pretty thorough job on his package. Yeah. Any questions, John? Looks good.
I will say the site plan was complete and we went before VDOT and they required us to do some changes to the entrance. So we're waiting to get that back. It won't change the site itself, just the entrance as it goes in. They didn't like some of the stormwater coming out into the current ditches that they have there. So Perkins and Orson are reworking that and I expect to get that back within the
So
next.
is the site entrance going, after you hit the railroad track, is it going to the left or is, because I know residential, my grandmother's one of them, but residential all the way, but is it going in from like the factory side is where you're going to enter in?
This will be just up from that. There's that private
Because I know
drive.
it's a
that's right
private
there.
drive. My grandmother's shed's right there.
Yeah.
So,
And we plan to utilize the private drive, expand that. Keep
okay.
the private drive going up and kind of tee off of that to get into the center in that field.
You don't have any intentions on putting public water and utility through there at all point.
we've-
Because I know it's a shared well all the way, it's a shared community well up through there.
None of our centers have any public water out there. We did check with the PSA and they're currently up at the.
They're up on the
church.
top. They're up on top of the hill and running it down.
They
Yeah.
said it would be a while before that could even take place if we wanted it, but we don't have any intention. of
Okay,
putting that
yeah,
there.
okay.
Again, we're not voting or anything. There's another set of these documents coming out, but I think I'm feeling everybody's pretty darn comfortable with what's going on. So I don't think we need to make any recommendations to staff.
Just provide feedback and any observations or opinions.
Well, just, when staff gets the new package, take a look at it and see if it works pretty well. I'm pretty confident it would. So.
One thing I was concerned, I knew there was more people that talked before. Did we set a precedent where we're gonna have people that, this could be one, obviously it's not. I don't think we have anybody online that is concerned about being a neighbor to the.
Yeah, would they have received any, since this is not, it's just a site review, do we post it with citizens' comments if there were neighbors who were?
They don't get letters like they got letters.
Well, it's
They do
zoned
So
not.
industrials. I don't even know what you bypass with that
no.
anyways.
That
Why is that different than that one? It's because one's a subdivision, one's
that is correct. The current subdivision ordinance states that the developer should notify all the direct adjoiners in the subdivision, in a standard subdivision, I should say.
I'm just saying is that if, say there was some people up there that didn't like this being next door to them, would we have?
Well,
would-
and again, it
would
goes
we
back to that
invite them?
transparency thing.
Yeah.
Is there any notification of the neighbors in this type of action?
There is not.
At this point, there is not.
We've
Okay.
we have received I'd say a handful, less than a handful of phone calls as far as neighbors inquiring about, hey, saw some surveying over there. Hey, this was, I'm not sure if it was in the newspaper or not yet. But Adam does make a good point. This is an industrial zoning district, and so the permitted uses are the most intensive zoning category we have.
Okay, yeah, I don't have anything further. Yeah.
And we really don't
If I
get
may,
too many. We don't get too many on staff centers. We, the Office of Community Development, believe it or not, we get a handful of phone calls here and there about the unstaffed centers. I think, and I send them rightfully so to Daniel, and he does a great job with answering questions as always. But I don't think I've ever received a phone call on the tidiness or unsightliness of a staff center.
Yeah, they work pretty well.
Yeah. How long has the county owned this parcel?
But Daniel, do you know that off the top of your head? I think it's probably about a year. I would say a year or less than a year.
Year and a half. It was
Okay.
24. I think we did the purchase on that.
No plans for the wooded section?
Nothing that's come to my desk.
And nothing's come to our desk either.
It's like a large parcel to hold for 3-4 acre collection center, but yeah. It's out of our
We
purview.
actually we worked on another collection center closer to the intersection of South River and Borden Grand or Old Buena Vista Road. And that just there were many issues with that particular one being it was in the floodplain. There were some electrical lines, some easements, if I recall correctly. And so this was the second site in the area that I'm aware of.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
And to the point before,
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, he lives up on the hill. It's 98 on the map on the packet here. He was in contact with me and he had some concerns, but we addressed those and just wanted to see the site plan. But looking at the other sites, he was comfortable with.
Thank you for
Yeah.
dealing with that.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks again. Any more recommendation or comments to staff? So we're going to move on. We're going to have a discussion of moving the County of Rockbridge land development regulations from Appendix A to a chapter of the county code.
Yes. Currently, the County of Rockbridge land development regulations, zoning and subdivision ordinances are an appendix to the county code. In reviewing the zoning regulations of other localities, the vast majority have incorporated the subdivision and zoning ordinances as chapters in their respective county codes. The paralegal with the county attorney office, Ms. Patterson, has worked to reformat the regulations in order to be integrated as new chapters within the county code. The agenda item is to inform of the upcoming action. No formal action is required from the Planning Commission. The process will include a public hearing with the Board of Supervisors for an amendment to the county code.
Thank you. Good.
Yep.
Sounds great. Zoning text amendment discussion, Neil?
I can chime on that one. So last month we talked about the plan unit developments. We did get an email from Mr. Sabrizi, Commission Member Sabrizi. I appreciate that. And we also have a couple other one, plan unit development and ADU, accessory dwelling unit. So we're still, staff has started the research on that. So those are two that we want to one day in the near future, I should say, put those as an agenda item. Also working through the subdivision ordinance. I think there's some code requirements that I'm concerned with on the subdivision side of things, on the subdivision ordinance. So that's another one that I would like to bring back to y'all. And so essentially the purpose of this agenda item was just to inform y'all that yes, we're still working on the two that we mentioned yesterday, and we would like to bring forward some suggested changes to the subdivision ordinance as well. And usually what we do, we will put that on the agenda, whether it's ADUs, PUDs, or subdivision, we'll put it on discussion of the subdivision ordinance, for example, and then have the discussion. And at that time, the Planning Commission would direct staff, or could direct staff, I should say, to take it to public hearing.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update, Chris. Yeah.
Can I go back to the change from Appendix A to?
Sure, I think.
Is there, I mean, how, is there, what percentage is finished already?
We've already have it generally, and it's just, this is just, we'll move it so it's no longer called a regulation. It's called an ordinance, which it really is an ordinance
It's
anyway.
still an ordinance.
And so I'm the one that kind of pushed to do that. So yeah, we pretty much have the chapterization of it. That's all done. We just have to go through and look over, where definitions go. And so that we're not that far off from bringing that to be done. And it is part of what is an ongoing project, and a project that Chris and I are working on to actually go through and review everything.
Clean everything up.
To get everything up to where it needs to be, because we're doing it. And, and that is a big process, because there will have to be public hearings for these, and we're looking to how we do it. Now, we only need one public hearing to move it into the code. But when we get to substantive
That's word for
changes,
word, though, pretty much.
yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're not going to do any changes to it other than just, or organizational
You want to do
changes.
that first before you do the other things?
Yeah,
right?
I think I think it's good to get that moved in there. Then we can work, because that would be just the big, now we have the structure that we want to have in place. And I think it's good to have it that way, as opposed to doing it later on, just to get that first. Because there's nothing really controversial about this one. While as we go through everything else, some of them won't be controversial, some of them will be. And that will take up a good bit of staff time and your time and the Board of Supervisors time.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right now, we can live with it the way it is right now. If it's creating staff time, then maybe it's something we put off.
No, it's we're very lucky now to have Penny Patterson as my paralegal. She has a great mind to structure things and how to put things together. She's the one that went through and redid the chapterization. She's the one that publishes our code and keeps our code up to date. We don't pay for an outside service like most people pay for, and she does a much better job. So I think as long as, she works part-time, she's retired from her other job at WNL. And as long as she's with us, we want to use her. So I think this is a really good use of her time, because, the substantive stuff, we don't really need her on that, but on this organization stuff, she's amazing. So, so I understand your point, but I think let's get this done. Let's get this done. And then we start jumping into the actual going, at that point will be chapter by chapter and section by section to see the best way. And some of these things will pop up, like some of the stuff we've talked about. There are things that as we go through these, we realize we're not in compliance with what the law is, or new laws are changed, and those things have to be done first. But we do have it'll be a busy year. And I'd like to get this done my personal goal is to get done within a calendar year, but,
Let's get it done.
but I don't
When
know.
you
I
say-
mean, not this calendar, I mean, within a 12-month year period, but I don't know if that's possible. but
When
we're
you
doing
mean by
it.
done, what do you mean by done?
Going the whole LDR, going from top to bottom, making sure that we have everything where it needs to be.
Not just format.
No, the formatting, that'll come first. That's the easy part.
Okay.
And it makes me feel better now because now we have everything referred to as a code. So everybody knows that land development regulations have the exact same status as any other ordinance. And right now it's a little, for me, when I think of regulation, I think it's not the same status as an ordinance. And that's never been the case. I think they've been misnamed. So it just.
Do we have regulations?
We don't have we don't have a formal regulatory, like a book of regulations that we have to follow. It's not the same as they have like at the state level where,
Or the Army?
or the Army. Oh yeah. The Army.
That's my
So
experience.
it's not quite the same, but obviously there are, people have internal guidelines on how they do things and we try to, as we go through time, try to document those as best we can. But that's another thing to look at when time goes on. But
I mean,
we have, I think I'd like to take care of the actual statutes themselves initially. And
Roger, I
then,
just was curious.
No,
if
it's a
we-
good point.
if
I asked that.
we had any.
I asked that same
Because
question.
that was
when I got
kind of the gist of some of my questions previously was the fact is that there's some guidelines that we
Yeah.
use in order to make a decision that's not specific to the.
Yeah, and
law.
luckily that, the majority of stuff, like for example, for this residential stuff, I mean, it's really clear what Chris can and can't do. When it's a by right use, we just have to say, are they complying with what the setback requirements and these few other things are? And that's about what this is about what we have to do. Now, we do have some, I mean, we have our the form that people have felt if they want to appeal things, or they want to challenge things, they want to, and we're going to add on determination letters on that. So, I mean, we're trying to, we have it standardized, but it maybe even go through and look at what other localities are doing and seeing if we can standardize some of these practices a little bit more. And we're making progress in all those areas. I mean, things work, but as more things go on, we need to look back and say, can we do things better? And that's one of my thoughts is I think we should add, and I think we're planning to add onto our form that is required to be signed for doing like an appeal. We also add a request for a determination letter, because I think there was some in the issue with Warren, so there's some question whether or not Chris actually made a determination. But if we actually have a formal policy on how to get a determination, which quite a few other localities do, that kind of removes that whole question. So when we ran through that process, we realized, well, maybe we should be doing that different. And that's
could
kind
be
of
a-
how we do it.
That
Those
could be
things
a
ran up.
regulation rather than.
Well,
part of the
there's
ordinance?
we're not authorized to create. There are some ordinance we passed do allow, like the Commissioner of the Revenue can create certain regulations, which she does, which we don't have purview over that. She has the office to do that. But if it's not actually granted in the ordinance itself, we can't, Chris wouldn't have the authority to make a regulation, but he always can set policy
What
within his
about a
office.
guidebook?
What's that?
What about a guidebook?
Well, no, he can always create guidebooks and how things are going, set policy within his office and how he wants to run his office. That's perfectly fine. That doesn't come to the level of regulations, which have a certain formality to them. And that can only happen if the ordinance authorizes them to actually do regulations. Like as I said, like the Commissioner of Revenue will often be given the authority to create regulations. So those are all good questions, but we're taking things step at a time, like how you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Okay, everybody good? Any more comments? And do we have a
One
meeting?
more comment.
Yes.
Sorry. The Board of Supervisors had a brief discussion on electronic message centers on Monday and instructed the Planning Commission to revisit the electronic message center. So we're at the very beginning of that stage. But in the very near future, maybe even next month, we might have something on the agenda for that notion.
It sounds like it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Yep. Or
It's a
finalized.
good time. It's a good time to revisit it. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Super. Thank you, Chris. Very good to see you. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all very much for your time.
Yep. Thank you. All right. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Nays? No nays.
Thank you
Meeting is
all.
adjourned. How's that, Neil? No nays? It sounds like something you spray up your nose.
Gotta make sure. You gotta make sure. With the trowel.
Let's have a phone call sometime because
We do that every now and then.